I thought it would be a routine audit, count the paintings, list the books, inspect the estate for taxes. But by the second day, something didn't feel right. The west wing was sealed off. And in the old law books, I found a court order, stamped in wax, dated 1891. Whatever happened here? They didn't want anyone to know. I had done audits for eccentric families before. Old money, hidden assets, strange stipulations in even stranger wills. But nothing like this. When the law firm called, they said it was a simple assignment, a full inventory and audit of the Mirrow Estate, tied to an unresolved inheritance dispute. What they didn't mention was that the estate hadn't been touched in nearly a century. I arrived by train, then by a rusted cab that dropped me off at a long dirt road. At the end stood the estate, massive, gray, and silent, like it was holding its breath. The air was cold, unnaturally still. Inside, dust lay like snow, and every clock had stopped to the same hour, 2:17. There was no staff, no caretaker. Just keys and a letter waiting for me in the foyer. The estate looked preserved, not lived in, not abandoned, just paused, as if time itself had been instructed to wait. By the third day, patterns began to emerge, and they didn't make sense. Several rooms listed on the estate inventory were missing entirely from the floor plan I'd been given. Most notably, the west wing was sealed shut. Thick iron hinges bolted the double doors, and a tarnished plaque above read simply, "Closed by order." No date. No explanation. The main hall was filled with items supposedly sold off decades ago, yet here they sat, untouched. I found a crate of antique brandy labeled "Consumed 1899, still corked and dusty in the wine cellar. Then came the invoices. I found them in a drawer inside the study, meticulously logged and bound by string. Deliveries for coal, paper, and even cleaning services, dated as far back as 1887, with payments noted into the 1930s. Yet nothing recent. It was as if the estate had once been active long after it was supposed to be abandoned, but only on paper. The Mirrow Estate library was vast, 2 floors of rotting shelves and dust-covered tomes. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just scanning for estate documents or historical records that might explain the strange financial inconsistencies. That's when I noticed a floorboard near the fireplace, slightly raised, warped at the edge like something had tried to pry it up once. Curiosity won. I wedged it open with a brass poker and reached into the darkness beneath. My fingers touched leather, soft, aged, and wrapped with a cracked cord. A journal. Inside the front cover was a name written in ink that had browned with time, Edgar Thorne Mirrow, dated June 1890. The entries started ordinary, discussions of estate renovations, dinner guests, garden plans. But as the months went on, the tone shifted. Mentions of the mirror in the west wing began appearing more frequently. He wrote of reflections that didn't match the room, of family members falling ill, of voices behind the walls at night. Then came the chilling phrase, repeated 3 times across separate pages. What happened on February 13, 1891, must never be spoken of. It changed the family forever. That was the same year the estate records abruptly stopped. The estate's law library was a narrow, claustrophobic room tucked behind the drawing hall. Thick legal tomes lined every wall, their spines brittle with age. I wasn't expecting to find anything of substance, but one volume, Property Disputes and Local Ordinances, Volume 4, felt wrong in my hands. Heavier than it should have been. I flipped it open. Inside, the center had been hollowed out. And there, perfectly preserved, was a folded parchment sealed in red wax, its imprint still crisp. Cook County Circuit Court, 1891. My heart thudded in my chest. It wasn't listed in any case log I'd seen. I immediately contacted the legal team in Chicago via satellite phone. After an hour of searching, they returned with an unsettling answer. No record of a court order issued to the Mirrow family in that year. Not sealed, not public, not archived. It simply didn't exist. I stared at the seal. Do I open it? I wasn't authorized. But this estate hadn't followed rules for a long time. The longer I stood there, the more I felt like this document wasn't hidden because it was forgotten. It was hidden because someone didn't want it ever to be found. I waited until after midnight. I don't know why. Maybe because it felt like opening something buried, something sacred, deserved silence. I sliced through the wax seal with a silver letter opener I found on the judge's desk across the hall. The parchment inside crackled as I unfolded it, each crease releasing a faint scent of smoke and dried flowers. It wasn't what I expected. The document was formal, filed under emergency petition and signed by a now-defunct local magistrate. But it wasn't against a person. It named a location. Hereby issued, under authority of the state of Illinois and county of Cook, that the west wing of the Mirrow Estate is to be sealed indefinitely and deemed permanently unfit for human occupancy. The wording grew strange after that. Due to conditions which present unresolvable threats to spiritual, moral, and cognitive stability, the space is to remain unentered, untouched, and unspoken of. Violation of this order is not punishable by law, but by consequence. No court case number. No recipient signature. Just a blank space where the name should have been. But in faint pencil below it, I saw a scribbled phrase. The house watches those who read this. And suddenly, I felt it watching me too. I should have walked away. I should have closed the book and left the seal untouched. But some part of me, maybe arrogance, maybe hunger for truth, wouldn't stop. At dawn, I returned to the west wing doors, broke the rusted chain, and pushed them open. The air was thick with the scent of charred wood and something sweeter, like decayed lavender. The walls were blackened with soot, and lining them were portraits, grand, baroque, but every face had been violently scraped away, leaving only outlines and hollow ovals. At the center stood a tall mirror, its frame warped like melted wax. I stepped forward and froze. In its reflection, the room was full of people, staring at me, waiting. On the writing desk lay a second court document, identical to the first, but unsigned, half-finished. The date: February 13th, 1891. The ink was still wet. And I swear, I hadn't touched a pen. I returned to the library and opened Edgar's journal one last time. Near the back, on a torn, faded page, his final entry read, "We thought we could bind them, with parchment and law, as if ink could hold what the soul could not. But bargains made in mirrors do not obey earthly courts. We sealed the wing, and in doing so, sealed ourselves. No further entries. No signatures. No dates beyond February 13th, 1891. After that year, no census recorded the Mirrow family. No death certificates. No wills. The estate passed to distant relatives, none of whom ever moved in.